I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak in this debate because before the general election earlier this year I spoke locally in Great Yarmouth about my views on the importance and the benefits of a directly elected police commissioner, and I appreciate the chance to speak to that today. I also just wanted to touch on the fact that I agree with the point one of my honourable friends made earlier, that it does seem somewhat surreal having sat through the opening speeches today to have been part of what felt like a hustings for the shadow cabinet, and to listen to the way statistics are rolled out, which can be useful in terms of looking at history and planning the future. But actually, what I'm interested in, what I like about the government's policy at the moment, is the way it's looking at how we then move forward to deal with issues in the future as policy has to move forward with the times. And I do think it's important that we look forward and we understand the fact, as I think honourable friends have made the point earlier today, very eloquently, in the situation that we have actually got. We have got an economic inheritance that we have to deal with, as has already been acknowledged by members on the other side, as well as the points made from my honourable friends, a situation where even a Labour government would have had to make substantial cuts. And we are obviously now in a situation with a comprehensive spending review coming up, where this government is going to have to make some tough decisions, but decisions that, as the budget made clear, will hopefully be fair and will allow, as has already been made, the retention of important frontline services. One of the things that I've found enlightening, actually, in my time as a candidate and early days, as I still am as a relatively new Member of Parliament, is understanding and seeing how the police, and particularly the police in Great Yarmouth, work. I'm very fortunate that despite the fact that many of us in Norfolk have felt for a long time, and I know members before me have made the point, that in Norfolk we feel our police force has often been, because we're a rural community and seen as not being a high crime area as a county, and a small authority in terms of the police, an area that has not had as much funding as it feels it should have, and almost sort of left to our own devices and feels sort of left out in that way. I'm very fortunate in Great Yarmouth that particularly recently we've had an excellent superintendent looking at really out-of-the-box ideas of how to move forward and working with the community to deal with crime and to prevent crime and help crime come down. And we've been very fortunate in that. And that superintendent is still in place and doing some fantastic work. And when you look at some of the work that's going on with community groups, with projects like the Kicks project that works with the police, with the local authorities, with the local community and Norwich City Football Club, providing some phenomenal opportunities for young people that actually does deal with some of the antisocial behaviour. And I would ask my honourable friend, the Minister, if he has time in the near future to come and visit and see, to come back to Great Yarmouth and see what the Kicks project is doing firsthand. It's phenomenal work across the county, but specifically some very, very good work in some of the really deprived areas of Great Yarmouth. It's a really good example of how crime can be dealt with, how the police are working with the community and some of the things they can do. What interests me about the opportunity of releasing them from some of the bureaucracy and red tape and tick box culture they've had is if a police team like I've got in Great Yarmouth can achieve what they've been doing, I'm excited about the opportunities and the benefits we can get in the future when they're really let loose to deliver. When I did a shift with police some time ago now, a night shift in Great Yarmouth, what really stuck in my mind wasn't just the plethora of paperwork that I had to sign and they had to deal with on a daily basis for every little part of their job. And I think one officer made the joke as an aside, but I understood the point he was making, that there's even a form to fill in if they want to use the bathroom. Was actually the most important point was they were talking about the time they have to take off of being on the beat in order to deal with any one single issue. And the example that was used to me was that if in Great Yarmouth somebody after a night out broke a window and officers arrested somebody and brought them back, that could take them off the beat. In dealing with the paperwork, in dealing with the phone calls, could take them off the beat, 2 officers, for up to 7 hours. And that, if we can strip that kind of bureaucracy away and let them get on with doing their job more efficiently, more effectively, I fully understand and support why we can keep more officers on the beat, more visually on the beat, doing their job, fighting crime, what they wanted to do, what they've trained to do, what they do so well for us, rather than filling in the paperwork back at the office. And it was interesting to early on hear an honourable member from the opposite benches mention the current changes coming to the Audit Commission, particularly after yesterday's debate. I'm pleased to be able to make a point similar to that which I made yesterday in this chamber, which is that actually losing that input from the Audit Commission can only be good news again for the police, as it is for our local authorities, in that they can do more about servicing their residents and keeping the streets safe and have to worry a little bit less about ticking a box for a appointed quango like the Audit Commission. But one of the main things I like about the police authority, moving over to a directly elected commissioner, is exactly the point that's been made by honourable members earlier, which is this transparency and this clear signal about who is responsible. I think over the last few years, one of the things I've personally found frustrates residents across government departments the most is not knowing who is responsible, who is accountable. I think one of the things we've suffered from more than anything in this country is this ability of government to just move accountability away through different layers of bureaucracy, red tape, agencies and quangos and different bodies. And there is a feeling, I think, out there with people that the police and the police authorities kind of fall into that because people don't know generally who their police authority chairman may be. Again, I'm fortunate enough we've got a very good chairman who will no doubt love the fact that I'm talking in favour of police commissioners, as he and I had a disagreement on this before the general election. But actually, appointed by a county council, so it does have political power put behind it because it's a councillor appointed by a county council. That is effectively a political appointment. I think it is a real step forward that we can give local communities that direct ability to say, this is who we want, and if that person does a good job, bring them back, and more to the point, know who is accountable. No hiding behind a government quango, no hiding behind a county council body that's appointed or any other kind of authority. That person is the person responsible and accountable. And my experience has been that the police actually do understand that that does not affect their day-to-day operational power to do their job and move things forward. In that sense, there could be very little practical change for them in terms of how they work on an operational basis from where they are now with the police authority. The big difference to me, the big benefit and advantage of this is that clear, transparent accountability for the public. And I don't think that is something we can ever try and underestimate the importance of. And having been a councillor when the new licensing laws came in, and having been one of those who was excited about the ability to start to get to grips with the pub-growing culture in the area where I was a councillor at the time, I was one of those hugely disappointed when we found out that nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, it was almost impossible to curtail even the opening hours of some of the public houses. And actually changes to the licensing laws will actually allow local authorities to do what most residents think they can, which is actually create some forms of policy and actually start mapping out some sensible ideas around controlling the licensing hours and licensing premises in their authorities can only be a good thing. And that's why I fully support the moves the government is making in that regard. And having a major hospital in Great Yarmouth, I also have seen the impact in an A&E department that alcohol affected and induced crime can have, and the effect that has knock-on effects, as has been touched on by members earlier today, through the health service and the cost of that, not just to the community but to the health service directly. And if we can do something through the new policies to deal with that issue, then we can make huge savings, both economically and as communities, in the way we move forward in our country. And indeed, as has been, I think, touched on earlier today, even with teenage pregnancies and matters like which in Great Yarmouth is an issue, we can start to move forward, as alcohol certainly clearly seems to be something that has a huge impact in that regard. So I think the policies that the government is laying forward directly for my residents, and I come to this from a point of view of what do my residents want, what do they feel? I want my residents not just to be safe on their streets and safe in their homes, but to feel safe on their streets and safe in their homes. And I think the ability to know who is the person responsible for the decisions around policing locally, and to see the police officers on the street working in solving their crimes because they're on the street rather than dealing with bureaucracy and tick box culture, is a massively beneficial step forward. And I agree with the point that was made by an honourable member from the other side earlier. Having spent time with the police and seeing how intelligence-based their work is, they are a huge asset to our community, and when our community is able to see more of them because they're doing less paperwork, that can only be for the better. So I fully support the government's stance on this. Thank you.
Chris Evans.